Hello, welcome back to the sideboard here at the Regional Championship at SCGCon Washington, D.C. I'm Nick Miller alongside Tommy Ashton, Magic Online ringer, 4-0 in the current Pioneer Regional Championship with one of the hot new decks on the scene here, and this is the Rakdos Cauldron deck. Some people are calling it the tree deck, but there's a lot of moving pieces going on with this deck, and it's not your typical Rakdos deck. So tell me about how you got to this this particular build of this deck.
Yes, so there's a person, I believe it's Jupiter Brando, who has been, I'm not sure if they are the inventor of it, but they're certainly the person who has championed it the most and done the best with it on Magic Online. It has been doing very well in events on and off, but it's never taken up like top 5, like saturating the metagame or anything. And it is something I was drawn to because obviously like having a 2-card combo that can win on turn 4 with Rakdos Cauldron and Tree of Perdition it's terrific to have that capability. But really I just wanted to continue playing Push, Thoughtseize, Harvester, Fable, and I mean they took away Sora and Vein Ripper from me, so Cauldron Tree fits in just as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like that. They kind of just want their 1-mana interaction that the Rakdos deck offers, and then the extra tools however they want to customize, whether it be, the aggressive versions, the mid-range versions, the combo versions. And this deck specifically almost feels like a toolbox deck, even though, it kind of operates differently than that.
Yes, because the deck is pitching all the ways that I've played the deck. I'm pitching cards all the time. Like I'm very, very easily able to get rid of something that might not be like Fatal Push against blue-white, or just being able to draw, if you start with Tree of Perdition in your opening hand, it's never an issue to get into the graveyard because you have 4 Fear of Missing Out, you have 4 Fable, you have the blood tokens off Harvester. I prefer personally to play Inti. I actually wish I was playing even more than just 2 because you can always ditch extras, and that card has been like a pet card for me in these types of shells. And I've found that because the deck has not reached the upper echelon of popularity yet, I have had opponents who forget about the +1/+1 counter from Soul Cauldron being an onboard trick, so that my Fable token's bigger than theirs. I've had opponents not realize that I had lethal because it's going off of a Fable token, a Mutavault, and a Cauldron in play. It just happens that if I have Tree in the graveyard, they can go from 17 to 3 just like that.
Yeah. And so that's the big draw to the deck. What are the other little pieces that someone who's experienced with the deck will kind of see that isn't just the flashing lights, turn 4 kill situation? So
Fear of Missing Out, it doesn't produce some kind of infinite loop, but it's when you have reflection, when you have a flipped Fable, so a reflection of the Mirror Breaker, Fear of Missing Out essentially acts as another reflection. It's able to attack, untap the Fable, make a copy of the Fear of Missing Out if you have a mana, attack again, untap the Fable. So it's essentially producing a 2-power attacker for each mana that you have. Yeah. That allows you, you can just keep playing lands, and if you've got 6, okay, well that can easily be 12 damage in the mid to late game. I would also say that I added a couple extras, I have the new card Marvin Murderous Mimic. It hasn't performed that great for me, but it's kind of a concession against Graveyard Hate. But you could have that in play, cast Tree of Perdition, and immediately swing them down to 2 life, and make Marvin, I guess, like a 2/17. I also love that the deck continues to play tons of tons of creature lands. They've got Den of the Bugbear, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, Mutavaults. It's got a very flexible sideboard where you're able to play Ley Line of the Void, and again, if you draw it late game, you can just pitch it. I'd say that the other interesting card that's been developed recently has been Hazoret of the Fervent in the sideboard. And finally, one of the best cards in the deck has been Gigantha. With so many ways to discard, it actually, in some ways, the errata to companion, where it lets you put it into your hand, just generates an extra card. It's 3 mana, draw a card in the mid game. And also, I've been just attacking with it. And in one case, exiling it so that my creatures can tap for 5 colors of mana.
Yeah, it's really wild to see the evolution of Gigantha go from it's just there because you can do it type of situation to, in Pioneer, it really feels like it comes up a lot. You're actually casting the card, you're making use of the card way more than before.
I'm not positive that there are cards that I'm not playing because of Gigantha, but I would not play them because of Gigantha. starting with the extra card continues to be great, and even if it's just a 5/5 for 5, or even if it's just an extra card to pitch. I'd also say that the toolbox of, or the base of decks like this, that like the 4 push, 4 harvester, 4 Thoughtseize, really prepares you for decks at the top of the metagame right now, like Rakdos Prowess. In particular because Thoughtseize is actually good against red decks now. Yeah. You don't have to worry about a Wizard's Lightning off the top late in the game. What you need to do is stop them on turn 2 or turn 3 from having bursts of damage coming at you. So even Duress and Thoughtseize are things that stay in against them.
Now you mentioned the Hazoret real quick. We'll touch on that because that's one of your key sideboard cards. You said that's just a deal breaker against Phoenix.
Yes, it's something that Phoenix isn't really equipped to deal with. Aether Gust is not really a card that has been seeing a ton of play because a lot of green decks have kind of been pushed down. So there aren't that many ways for them to ever deal with Hazoret. It also comes up that I can discard it and Cauldron it onto something, and essentially any time that I have a creature that I can get a counter on, I'm back to being able to pitch lands at them. They don't have any way to deal with it on the board. They don't really have ways to deal with it in the graveyard, dealing damage to them.
All right, well, you're 4-0 in the event. How do you feel about your position in the meta, and how happy are you with your deck choice here?
I feel pretty good because there aren't a ton of decks that this deck doesn't have draws and cards to be able to beat. Thoughtseize is just very text agnostic to what my opponents are doing. So I played against Incarnation last round, and I was able to take Enigmatic Incarnation both games, and an enchantment-based deck would usually be something that Red-Black can't really do much against. I'm pretty much prepared to play against most things. Obviously, I'm often terrified of Lotus Field, and I'm just happy to be able to essentially continue playing Fable, play a pet card in mine of Inti, and just get to attack for 2 and 3 a lot.
Awesome. Well, the deck looks great. You're off to a killer start. 4-0. Tommy, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to Star City Games all weekend long for the action here in Washington, D.C.